So yesterday we were reading page 2 and 3. And hopefully we can see that the context of that discussion in 1890, this is Review and Herald, March 25th, 1890, paragraphs 1 to 5. The discussion that's going on here is around the 1888 message, and there are the leading brethren who are essentially telling people that they don't need to study for themselves, that they can rely upon the previous experience of the leadership. And one brother asks, why can't we do that? Paragraph 4. Brother asked, Sister White, do you think that we must understand the truth for ourselves? Why can we not take the truths that others have gathered together and believe them because they've investigated the subjects, and then we shall be free to go on without the taxing of the powers of the mind in the investigation of these subjects? Do you not think that these men who have brought out the truth in the past are inspired of God? And she says no, that they're not inspired in the fullest sense of the word. I believe that God has given them a work to do, but if they are not fully consecrated to God at all times, they will weave self into their peculiar traits of character and into what they are doing, and will put their mould upon the work and fashion men in religious experience after their own pattern. And that's exactly what was happening. It wasn't some kind of theory. And this is this struggle between Wagner and Jones and the leadership of the church. So that's just a summary of what we spoke of yesterday. Education, page 45, page 4. This is chapter 6, the schools of the prophets. Wherever in Israel God's plan of education was carried into effect, its results testified of its author. But in very many households, the training appointed by heaven and the characters thus developed were alike rare. God's plan was but partially and imperfectly fulfilled. By unbelief and disregard of the Lord's directions, the Israelites surrounded themselves with temptations that few had power to resist. What is household training? Second sentence.
By heaven was to...
I'm not asking that definition, I'm saying what is home training?
What is home training?
What do we call that?
Homeschooling?
We call that homeschooling today.
Yeah.
So the homeschooling that they had was actually creating a mess, not sorting the mess out, that, if you want to say, the mess that we're born into. And if we're talking about schools of the prophets and history repeating, then we know that whatever homeschooling we're doing today is actually productive of harm, not good. And if people feel that's too strong a statement. By unbelief and disregard of the Lord's directions, the Israelites surrounded themselves with temptations that few had power to resist. At their settlement in Canaan, they did not destroy the nations concerning whom the Lord commanded them, but were mingled among the heathen and learned their works, and they served their idols, which were a snare unto them. Their heart was not right with God, neither were they steadfast in their covenant. But he, being full of compassion, forgave their iniquity, destroyed them not. Yea, many a time turned he his anger away. For he remembered that they were but flesh, a wind that passeth away and cometh not again. Fathers and mothers in Israel became indifferent to their obligation to God, indifferent to their obligation to their children. Through unfaithfulness in the home and idolatrous influences without, many of the Hebrew youth received an education differing widely from that which God had planned for them. They learned the ways of the heathen. And if we believe anything about line upon line, we know that if you send your children to school, they're learning the ways of the heathen. And more often than not, when you home educate, it's not any better. If anybody's got any comments on that? The whole system is a mess, whether you homeschool or whether you send them to public schools, because most parents have already imbibed the doctrines of the heathen, as she mentions here, and we educate our children using the same methodology, the same idolatry, whilst at home, than they would learn at school. And we just comfort ourselves because we use Christian education material that that's going to solve the problem. But I can assure you, well, I don't need to, I think it's inherently obvious, if you just go back into the history, they were teaching them from the scriptures. They were teaching them God's word, God's ways. They weren't teaching them how to fashion idols and bow down to them in this exact dynamic here. And they still made a total mess of the whole thing. To meet this growing evil, God provided other agencies as an aid to parents in the work of education. From the earliest times, prophets had been recognized as teachers divinely appointed. Okay, so this is the second paragraph, 46.1. This is why we're here, actually. It's not the preamble above. From the earliest times, prophets had been recognized as teachers divinely appointed. In the highest sense, the prophet was one who spoke by direct inspiration, communicating to the people the messages he had received from God. Now, in that sense of a prophet, if you go back and see what this person was asking, this is paragraph 4 in the previous section. A brother asked, Sister White, do you think we must understand the truth for ourselves? Why can we not just take the truths that others have gathered together and believe them because they have investigated the subjects, and then we will be free to go on without the taxing of the powers of the mind? Do you not think that these men who have brought out the truth in the past were inspired of God? She said, no, they just studied their way through things. They may have been directed, but they're not prophets in the fullest sense of the word. Coming back to the paragraph we're reading, 46.1. In the highest sense, the prophet was one who spoke by direct inspiration, communicating to the people the messages he had received from God. But the name was given also to those who, though not so directly inspired, were divinely called to instruct the people in the works and ways of God. For the training of such a class of teachers, Samuel, by the Lord's direction, established the schools of the prophets. Is that relatively clear about the distinction of these different types of prophets? Any comments or questions? No questions, straightforward. We're not interested. Into the week.
What would be not so directly inspired? one has a direct communication, the other one has one that's just hit and miss once in a while?
That's a good way of saying it, actually. Yeah, hit and miss once in a while. That would be someone like you. Sister Alyssa.
I was gonna say me, yeah.
Why was you going to say you?
Because it's true at this point.
What
Thought
is?
we covered it last night. That I'm wrong often. But I'm
I
right,
was
I'm
gonna
right sometimes.
William Miller, I would take as a to be serious about it, an example. This man is not inspired. He doesn't get direct revelations of God. Early writings, I think it's in the back end of the book. She talks about angels directing or guiding his mind. This is not inspiration in its fullest sense. He's not having dreams and visions. This is angels, however they do that, maybe inspiring him with thoughts, providential leadings. You know, he goes to a library or a bookshop and he buys the right book, not the wrong book. Angels directing the affairs of human beings. That's what I understand the guiding of his mind to be. But that's not a prophet in the fullest sense that's receiving direct communication. To meet this growing evil, just reading the paragraph again, to meet this growing evil, God provided other agencies as an aid to parents in the work of education. From the earliest times, prophets had been recognized as teachers divinely appointed. The highest sense of prophet was one who spoke by direct inspiration, communicating to people the messages he had received from God. We understand that, hopefully. But the name was also given to those who, though not so directly inspired, were divinely called to instruct the people in the works and ways of God. For the training of such a class of teachers, Samuel, by the Lord's direction, established the schools of the prophets. Don't find anything interesting there, I guess? We don't find anything interesting? The last sentence. Sorry?
The school of the prophets was established? That's kind of interesting.
It's interesting. Someone said something else? It's interesting. Why is that interesting? When it wasn't Samuel that did that, was it?
I didn't understand how it was established. That's why I find it interesting.
Did schools of the prophets just get set up when Samuel came? Perhaps? Sister Olivine?
Repeat your question, please.
When were the schools of the prophets set up?
They were set up by Elisha.
Sorry?
They were set up by Elijah. Elijah.
Elijah.
Yes, sir.
Being established.
Just make sure that's before Samuel. Yeah? Is that right? I'm just making sure. Samuel's the last judge, prophet. Brother James?
I said they were reestablished.
Oh, is that what she says?
Not
No, it
directly.
says established, not free.
Oh, you're going to say re-established? Solomon?
I just said it didn't say re. It just said
Oh, okay, yeah,
established.
he said he didn't say re. I thought I'd misread it when he said that, that's why. So why is she picking that up for? Why is she not going back to Elijah? Brother James? I thought you had your hand up.
Yeah.
Brother Graham?
I don't know.
So what are you asking exactly?
For the training of such a class of teachers, Samuel, by the Lord's direction, established the schools of the prophets.
He established them.
Didn't Elijah?
Elijah reestablished. That's what-
Elijah reestablished them later on. Wouldn't he have?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, these schools of the prophets, how do they function? What's happening at these schools of the prophets? We'll read before we comment. These schools were intended to serve as a barrier against the widespreading corruption, to provide for the mental and spiritual welfare of the youth, and to promote the prosperity of the nation by furnishing it with men qualified to act in the fear of God as leaders and counselors. To this end, Samuel gathered companies of young men who were pious, intelligent, and studious. These were called the sons of the prophets. As they studied the word and the works of God, his life-giving power quickened the energies of mind and soul, and the students received wisdom from above. The instructors were not only versed in divine truth, but had themselves enjoyed communion with God, and had received the special endowment of his Spirit. They had the respect and confidence of the people, both for learning and for piety. In Samuel's day, there were two of these schools, one at Ramah, the home of the prophet, and the other at Kirjath Jearim. In later times, others were established. So, what do these schools look like? How are they operating? What are they functioning as? For Daniel? We'll go with the teachers first. She calls them the instructors.
They were to be a barrier against the widespread corruption.
The teachers,
What? Yeah.
counselors. Where does it say that?
First statement.
That's the schools. That's the purpose of the schools. I just want to ask about the instructors.
It says that they have received
Yeah,
this.
we could all read it. I don't want you to read what I could read. You just tell me in your own words.
They had to be. I don't know if can say like this. People, spiritual people, like converted, true converted, something that can teach. I don't know.
Why say truly converted? Like, can you be like falsely converted?
Converted.
Okay, we'll just go with converted then, because I don't know what truly converted means. Like, I don't know what a born again Christian means. So they're converted.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they.
How do you know they're converted, by the way? We'll go with that. How do you know they're converted?
By the fruits.
By the fruit? Sister Rachel, how do we know they're converted?
Because they have the special endowment of His Spirit. I don't know if people can see.
So there are only these instructors that can only be prophets of the highest order.
Seems like it. I don't know.
Because I don't think it directly said that in the same.
Well, it just said that they had received special endowment of His Spirit. Instructors.
Do you take that as they're only prophets of the highest sense?
No. But someone who's being guided by the Holy Spirit, you can see in their life the work of the Holy Spirit.
Brother Tyler.
The question I walked in late.
Yeah, no. These, we're talking about the instructors, the teachers of the school. I've asked what characteristics that they have, and the first one we've gone for is they must be converted. So I'm saying, well, how do you know they're converted?
By the text, or
We go by the text.
did you read the last paragraph in the title?
We're in 46.2.
Okay. These are pious and studious men, and normally when you think pious, you have that's a converted kind of relationship with the Lord, if I understand the word pious correctly. But in theory, I don't know. Yeah, I'll go with that.
Pious and
Pious.
pious and pious. Anyone else? Sister Kathy.
Well, they were educated in the scriptures. They had a relationship with the Lord. And it says a special endowment, and I don't know if that means special illumination like the definition of a prophet, if she's using that interchangeably.
Okay, so you're not sure if she's using that interchangeably or not.
Yeah, good. It seems like it would be special endowment, special illumination.
Anyone else? Sister Tess?
Question?
How do you know these people are converted? Sorry?
You don't?
You don't.
Sorry, I hadn't read the whole paragraph, but I read it during when someone else was answering. I at least partly agree with Tess that you don't fully, but she does say that the instructors had themselves enjoyed communion with God and had. I know there's a special endowment part, but I'm going to focus on the communion with God. That while they're communing with God in whatever way or time, they are converted.
Okay, so you want to sign up for one of these schools?
One of Samuel's schools?
Presumably,
Yeah.
because you had a bad education.
Yeah.
How do you know the teachers are qualified to do that work? How do you know they've done all these things?
Well, I guess we can't take the spirit of prophecy at that point because this is way after, but.
It just seems to me, the reason I'm asking is because second from last sentence, they had the respect and confidence of the people. That's what stood out for me. That when you send your children to these schools, you know that it's a safe place because everyone generally acknowledges that those people who are leading out in that school, the instructors, they have a reputation. So who would send their children, who would go to a school where the instructors have a bad reputation?
All the time.
Sorry?
Happens all the time. But I guess maybe that's just the worldly people, but even
I'm talking about our movement. I'm not trying to shy away from what we're discussing. This is the schools of the prophets. Who would go to a school of the prophets where the instructors have not got a reputation and the respect and the confidence of the people generally?
I don't think anyone in the movement, I don't think.
I disagree. I disagree with that because I think we have a system that's actually set up that we do go to places where we have instructors who don't fulfill these requirements, in my opinion. Brother James.
I get what you're saying, but I mean, just you look at the school here, you're going to ask your your friends in the church, what are they going to say?
Friends in the church and not the church. The dynamics aren't quite the same, I would suspect.
Isn't the key word though in your definition generally that there's always not always an exception to the rule, but there's generally the system is set up in a good way, but if you're using the word generally, that means there's times when it's not, or there's people that are not, because I assume even in Samuel's day there were people who were there who, put on a good show and who were able to get by in some way. But generally the school had a good reputation. Maybe Samuel or whoever was leading out, but
Sister Kathy? I'm not sure what you just said then.
Would you repeat what you said about you disagreed with Tyler? I didn't.
You put your hand up before I said that.
No, you said it before about the you disagree that.
Oh, I've disagreed twice.
Yeah. Okay. The first disagreement about we don't have people qualified in the movement. I wanted to, if you could repeat.
He said we'd never go to a school where we've got unqualified teachers, and I said I disagree. I think people do go to schools that they've got unqualified teachers. Instructors, if we want to go with instructors, who don't command the respect and confidence of the people.
You say people go to normal schools.
Schools of the prophets. We're talking about schools of the prophets. We're talking about this movement. I want us, if you're willing to, have a frank discussion about the schools of the prophets that we're setting up right now. Brother James.
Going back to the question about, what does it look like, the special endowment of the Spirit? In the paragraph before, it says that they were divinely called to instruct the people. Generally, you can see what gifts people have. Some need to be refined or whatever, but we're talking about people that were chosen for that position. And you think of Paul and Barnabas, the church didn't have to hem-haw. They could see that they had a gift. They could see that they were divinely chosen, and they laid hands on them and sent them off in their work.
So, Paul and Barnabas had the respect and confidence of the Antioch church, if we can say in that context. And Ellen White commenting on that, she says they received no new endowment by the laying on of hands. It was a recognition of what was already patently obvious. She doesn't say that in that way, but I think that's what you're saying. It's obvious that these people are the right people to have. Brother Tyler.
My only point with that last sentence, that last statement that you said you didn't understand, was that
I didn't understand what?
I don't know. You said you didn't understand what I said last, so I'll re-say it.
No, I said I didn't agree.
Oh, okay.
I think.
But my only point was that the reputation of the school is
Okay, Max said I didn't.
is that the thing that I know. As I read it now, she's talking about the individuals. I think like each teacher has a reputation of being this perfect person that she's kind of describing here, this converted person, and you're saying that's not the case today.
She didn't say converted. I don't think that was.
Yeah, it's not there, but all the. Well, first, are we allowed to say that all of those other things are all the other different things other than she's saying the word conversion represent conversion?
Yeah, I'm just going with the statement. They had the respect and confidence of the people. Just go. There's the instructors, people who are going to teach you.
And my only point was that just in a general sense, at least, in a general sense, I think our schools generally, maybe not each individual in the schools has the respect and confidence of the people broadly.
Should they instruct?
The individuals?
They don't command the respect and confidence of the people. Should they instruct?
individually, maybe they shouldn't, but I mean, I'm just talking broadly as the school, like a corporate level, is all I was saying. I'm saying corporately these schools have the respect, but there may be people in the school, instructors, who aren't this. You know, like,
I mean, the sanctuary has corporately the respect of the people, but when the priests and Levites start doing dirty work and they lose the respect, the whole system becomes a stink to the people. The schools are only as good as the instructors, unless we come because we like architecture or something, which in some places the architecture isn't nowhere as nice as this one. If you've been to some of the other places. Brother Theodore.
Well, I mean, our system, I mean, if you're talking about the system we have now, I'm not even sure how, it's kind of an ad hoc system. I mean, there's all these different schools, there's not really any organizational structure per se. Decisions are made randomly. I mean, who is going to be an instructor?
And we dare to call them what?
What's that?
And we dare to call them what?
Schools of the prophets. Yeah, well,
I think that's the point you were making.
well, I don't know if that's the point I'm making either.
It wasn't.
All I'm saying is that, you know, there was an attempt to make schools of the prophets. And, you know, maybe we didn't go about it all the correct way. But I don't know how else you could have when there was no organizational structure.
We're just starting.
Yeah, we're starting. Yeah. So, I mean, what was done in the past, it's getting better, I would think.
Do you think?
I think, I mean, I'm not an expert on all the things that are happening. But I would think that it's getting better.
So the selection of the instructors is all under control now?
I don't know. I'm not sure how it even occurs.
Why would you think it's getting better? On what basis?
Well, I was here 2 years ago, and I think it's better this year as far as what I see happening with the students.
Because we've got better. We're just tackling the instructors at the moment. So we've got better instructors
The respect that the students have for the instructors.
Not the students, the people.
The people. Well,
generally the movement has respect to the teachers. So you're now saying we're only having respected teachers.
as far as I know, I mean,
That's why they invited you.
I don't know why they invited me.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Anyone else? I'm not having to dig at anything or anyone. I just want to say, you know, I don't think we have any frank discussions often enough about this thing, and we raise these ministries and we call them schools of the prophets. And it's just like if I paraphrase some Bible verse, I could say this is my Bible version, and you know, elevate it to some high status like it's the Word of God. Schools of the prophets, if we're going to use that term, we should at least try and follow some of these rules, I would suggest. And the primary one, or one of the primary ones, is you only have instructors just on those two who command the respect and confidence of the people. We should never be having instructors that don't have that. If there's any issues or questions with them, I don't think we do that. Brother Graham.
I was just asking, where are you picking up the word command? They command the respect.
I added that.
And if you've got the people...
I'm picking up from had.
So
they had the respect, they commanded the respect.
So they, the teachers, had the respect and the confidence of the people. Does that mean that the problem in this sentence lies with the teachers or lies with the people? So are the people the ones who have lost the respect?
Oh, you mean if things were not going right? Well, the context here, it's all going correct, isn't it? The instructors that are being, they would only select instructors that fit that bill. Because, you know, in any period of darkness or whatever, there are always people that you can highlight and say, that is a pious, righteous person. They've got a good reputation. You know, in any generation, you're always going to find that. it seemed to, the way you framed your question, it seemed to me like some of the people are bad, and they look at these instructors and say they're not very good instructors, so it would be the problem with the people, or whoever runs that school hires bad instructors, and so then it becomes the people are saying these are not good instructors. But in the original model, there is no failure. So I'm asking, if we're going to, in our fulfillment of this, we can get problems at both ends, but often it's not the people that are making the mistakes. You know, if you get 15 people and you say, put a list of all the pious people in our movement, they know who the pious people are. They know the people who they have confidence in. You may got the odd person who's got some problem with someone, you know, a personal issue, but that normally is visible. It's not like an individual person. I mean, this is the people, generally the people know, I would think, even in a wiki generation. You know, the whole system that they have when Christ is there on earth, he dies, the whole educational system is corrupt. But they have some pretty decent teachers, and everyone knows who the best teacher is. And who is that? Who? Gamaliel. Everyone knows that. He has a reputation not only for being a teacher of high quality, Gamaliel, Paul's teacher, but of being a righteous man. He may have some defects in his understanding of prophecy, but his character is unassailable. I'm not saying you can read it in a specific passage, but that's the context that I get. When he speaks as one having authority, not just because he's clever, but because he seems to be a righteous man. I don't
increase the checklist that you have, so that the people that you select as teachers cover more of the aspects required to be that teacher.
Yep. Brother Larry, you had your hand up?
Yeah, the question is, how can we say that they were divinely called? Or how are they divinely called? Because it seems to me that they're divinely called, and then they receive the respect and confidence of the people. So that's the first step for me.
Before we sort of delve into this, I don't mind not doing it if people like feel I'm digging at anyone or having a go at anyone, because I'm not. We're setting up schools, you know, pretty rapidly in our movement, and Brother Theodore, he said he doesn't even know how the system works, and it's kind of like ad hoc, and the people over there are just doing their own things without any control or supervision. And if you just rephrase that, it means these people over there, whoever there is, are out of control, because there is no control, there is no supervision. So I don't mind not talking about it, but it's right in front of us, and I just thought maybe we could. So Brother Larry, I agree that someone has to have this endowment of the Spirit. You think, well, that has to happen first, then they have to have a period of time, whatever period that time is, and people recognize that. People see in their learning and their piety, so I guess to me that means in their knowledge and their behavior, that these people are qualified to do this work. So it would have had to be that way. They would have had to receive the endowment of the Spirit, and then it would have been seen, and then they would say, let's choose this person. And you know, this is not something new. Adventism has got, you know, hasn't done well in its educational system, even in the time period of Ellen White. But one of the things that they did know is when they set up an institution, they would get the best ministerial talent, or that's what they were instructed to do. However you're going to define what best ministerial talent was, I would go with learning and piety. You wouldn't get, say like if you've got a minister, theologian, whatever you want to call them, pastor, and you've got 20 of them, and some of them, say like you've got one who's the top rated evangelist, or the best pastor of this church, and and the tithe is coming in and everything's going good. You see Ellen White today, and they say, well, we're setting up a new facility. Who should we call to lead out or head out in that school? And the temptation is to say, well, get the pastor or the minister who isn't doing a good job, fill them in that school. And she doesn't do that. She says we should get the top talent, the very best people to run our schools. She understands the importance of education. Because if you have top people running the school, instructing the school, they have much more influence in the church at large than you do if they're doing evangelistic series, as an example. So everybody put their hand up who had a comment, because I'm just making sure I didn't lose it. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment. I think it's the subject has changed.
No, go ahead, it's all right.
What caught my attention in this sentence is that they had the respect and confidence of the people, and we usually stop there. But they said, for learning and piety. And sometimes it happens that there are teachers who have the respect and confidence of the people, but for the wrong reasons.
Wrong reasons, or just one of them?
Or just one of them, yeah.
Okay.
Like
what wrong reason?
For example, and yeah, maybe I'm going out of. I hope I'm not good, or I hope I will. For example, there are people who have really good speaking skills, and people they draw attention to themselves, but they actually may not have good foundation in the truth from the prophetic perspective, or maybe even questionable piety, and still they manage to get the attention of some people, or not the attention, the respect and confidence. So maybe this is also this is the part of the people. They have to be careful to respect and have confidence in teachers who fulfill both of learning and piety.
Brother Tyler?
So in the model that she's talking about, as we've been saying, that you find the converted person, you find the finished products, and then you take a finished product, or a converted product, and you put it into your school, and you fulfill this you have the learning and the piety, they command the respect, that kind of thing. But I guess what we do often, at least in the past, maybe still, is we use the school as a testing ground for instructors and students.
On-the-job training?
On-the-job training, where you take someone and you say, you're close at least, and there's no one else, we got a shortage of labor, and you put them in the school and you say, let's see how you do. And
where did we learn that from?
I'm not saying it's good, I'm just saying that I think that's what we've done.
Okay. Where did we learn that from?
We learned that from how we run businesses, because that's what I do when I hire employees.
Sam said Christ. He didn't say it loud enough.
Sorry?
Speak loud.
I said Christ because he sent out his disciples.
Christ sent out his disciples? Brother James?
I just had a question about the people and the teachers and the relationship to one another. Kirjath Jearim and Ramah were only like a day apart. They weren't that far apart in the grand scheme of things. I know people didn't travel as much as they did, today as they did. They didn't travel back then as like they do today, but today's journey isn't that far. Is this is this talking about the people in their locality had their respect and their confidence? Or because so-and-so says that they have the respect and confidence of the people, I'm to trust that judgment? You know what I mean? Because today we have people being sent, all over the world. But where they're being sent, a lot of those people don't know anything about the teachers that are coming to them. So in that respect, they don't have the respect and confidence of that teacher because they don't know him.
Brother Larry?
What's going through my mind is still back to the divinely called. If we look back in the past, we've seen that several brothers who were good instructors, Brother M, Brother C, Brother T, Brother E, but yet they began to teach error and they stepped away from us. So how do we know when someone is divinely called? Which it says right here, they were divinely called to instruct the people.
How do we know?
It's not by the respect of confidence of people. Is that?
That's not how you would know?
There are many pastors in the church that they have confidence of the people.
Yeah.
In learning and in piety.
Yes.
And
I mean, I don't think we recognize someone that is called just because it has respect and confidence.
I don't think that's the way we should. I don't know. What is your suggestion? How we should do? How we should open the schools?
You tell me.
No.
You just said it shouldn't be that way.
I don't know. I'm asking you.
I don't know. I don't have the answers. That's why I'm asking. I don't have the answers. I'm just saying, do we follow these rules? Someone over here said something?
That they would teach truth is how we know they're divinely appointed, I would think.
So, how they would teach truth? If they teach truth...
Larry said that they seemed good, but then they started teaching error. Then they couldn't be divinely appointed, because God wouldn't put confusion or error in his messages.
Brother James?
I would argue that just because somebody ends up not teaching the truth does not mean that they're not divinely called.
You mean they can lose direction
Yes.
along the road?
We have that with Wagner and Jones.
Anyone else? With Tyler?
I might be totally off base for saying this, but you said where do we get our justification for what we do today, as opposed to what she's saying here? And like I said, this might be wrong, but it's at least what I'm thinking in the moment is if you treated this school like you treated the movement, I think that's an accurate equation at some level. You know, they're of equal importance at least. Then if you want to build a school and you get hires, you get laborers, some of those laborers are, you know, like with Noah, you get good and you get bad laborers, but they're all going to do a work and they're all going to contribute to building that school or building that boat or building the movement. Just like you see with wise and foolish, Judas and the rest, you know, Judas did a work, he converted people, he, you know, baptized, he did whatever he was supposed to do. And I think there's following that logic, we at least can see several witnesses to where bad people and good people combine to do whatever is supposed to happen. Now I get that might just be at a movement level and that doesn't apply to schools because it just doesn't work the same way, but maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe that's not valid.
You mentioned Judas and...
The disciples and Noah, and I guess you could bring in Hiram and the laborers who built the sanctuary or the temple.
say like Judas. Who hired Judas?
The other guys, the other disciples.
So that wasn't meant to happen. And Hiram, was the basis on which that contract was set up correct? For money.
I guess money is bad, but you know the Lord blessed all of it. You know, in terms of the product that was being delivered, he did the best work. You know, and that's what you need. I guess you need a not good workers in like physical ability, but I mean in the terms of the wherever the work may be.
But he made that. There was a whole problem there because people were seeking money. There was, promotion and rivalry. Yeah. The whole culture that had been set up in the construction of that temple just defiled the whole project. If you're willing to see that, just under the surface. So, are we doing a really good job, or the best job that we can do because we're only human?
Well, obviously not.
Theodore?
The thing is, how do you do different than what we have done at this point? Like, how could we have done it differently to start out? I mean, because we are just starting out.
Say like if there's 100 people in the movement saying, that instructor isn't very good. The instructor should be removed.
Have we had that? Like 100 people in the movement saying an instructor isn't very good?
I won't answer that question. Someone else can. Have we had that problem, Brother Tyler?
Yeah.
We have. Did we remove the instructor?
Yeah.
No.
Eventually.
No, we didn't. We didn't remove the instructor. The instructor removed themselves.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
They didn't get fired. They voluntarily left. Okay, so we've looked at the instructors. What about the students? When was watching a video and you decided to set up a school, take heed, because when they're zooming in on you, and we're going to start checking your instructors. The people who's coming, the students, what about them? What are they coming for? Which is what?
In this context, piety and learning.
So is that why you come here? Or we students? You come here to learn piety, to become different people, or just to learn some information? What's the reason that you come here for? Well, Philip, why did you come here?
Well,
Not then, now.
yeah. For the reasons, actually. The first is this is a very good place, probably the best, in which to understand, the present truth, like intellectually.
Why is this the best place?
And that now it's the best because of the second reason, because the setup that's here.
It's nice buildings.
Not necessarily nice buildings, where they're located, how the schedule is.
We're in the country.
The country, the agriculture, the agricultural work.
Okay, so we'll go with the structure. Every school virtually is running 2 meals a day, 2 classes a day, and a devotion and some work.
The movement, or just every school in the movement?
Talking about schools of the prophets.
Okay.
So why is this the best?
I'm not making a strong point on that. I mean, I would say probably. I just, for me at least.
I'm just wondering what would make it best, except the buildings and the facility. Because all the structures are all the same. The schedules, sorry, not the
The
structures.
teachers.
Correct?
The teachers, I don't know. Yeah. It also depends on how. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll leave that point. So what did you come for?
Yeah, so from these 2 points, these two perspectives, to get the intellectual training and also, I don't know if I call it physical training, or to get in the right intellectual training in the right framework, so to say. Not only intellectual training, like we meet up in the town in a hired place. We set up some meetings there. People come, stay 1 hour, listen to the truth, go back to their own business, which is fine. I don't say it's wrong to do that, but here is a
Well, they're not
place.
schools.
Yeah, they're not schools. So
They're
that's
synagogues.
yes. So that's why I came to a school, and I like it more.
Sister Olive, why did you come here?
To be trained.
Speak up.
Speak up. They're all quiet now on this subject.
No, I'm not being quiet. The same reason you come to be trained.
What kind of training you expecting?
Whatever training it is that the teacher should give or has to offer. I fully agree with the statements being made. Your teacher should command the respect of the people, and they should do the work that God has designed for them to do. And I also believe that the respect of the people as it relates to how things are, it wouldn't be the respect of the common persons within the movement. As you made the point that within the movement you have persons who would know the teachers and know about them. So yes, those things can be controlled. It's not something that's a hit and miss. So those things are not things that need to be guessed at.
Sister Rachel.
I came because I wanted to I knew that this was the truth, and I wanted to learn it better and more fully, and I wanted my life to be changed by it.
You tell me when you're finished, because sometimes people want to pause. I'm not trying to elicit more, just...
I think that's it.
Sister Kathy.
Well, I originally came because I believed it was the movement of God. I didn't really understand what a school of the prophets was. I'd never heard of that before. It was only after I was here for a while that I realized it wasn't just for me to gain information for myself, but I was to learn the prophecies that I could give to others. And I saw that then as an unexpected responsibility that I hadn't anticipated when I came originally, because I wanted to learn Adventist history, and I'd never read the prophecies before. And so now it's to gain an experience from others who have an experience themselves in the work and in the prophecies, and their life reflects that, the effect of that work in them. They have fruit that show they have a relationship with the Lord. They understand the scriptures. They have teaching ability and patience. And so now I'm here to, in accordance to what to think that the Lord calls you to see His faithfulness and fulfill, to trust Him that He is doing this, and that I, by His strength and the Holy Spirit and diligence combined, He would be able to fulfill that work in me.
James?
The Lord directed me here. So first off, as always, to be a servant, but also to
Speak up, please.
first off to be a servant, but secondly to become a better teacher.
You finished? Okay. Sister Alyssa?
Now or original?
Either way.
To be tried and tested. To
You could have that in the world, wherever you go, you're going to be.
I did have that in the world, and it wasn't true. It wasn't a real experience, and that's.
Well, I'm just picking up when you say tried and tested. That just means like provoked or poked.
Spiritually tried to make sure that my understandings of God, my relationship with Him, of who He is, was accurate, and to deepen and strengthen my connection with what was true, who is true. And now to continue that and to learn how to teach it.
Brother Gregory, I'm not sure your full experience of Schools of the Prophets, your opinions as an observer of what you've heard on the grapevine or what you've seen. These schools were intended to serve as a barrier against the widespreading corruption, to provide for the mental and spiritual welfare of the youth, and to promote the prosperity of the nation. By furnishing it with men qualified to act in the field as leaders and counselors. Do you think our schools are fulfilling that purpose?
What's the reference? Which paragraph?
46.2, first sentence. Do you think our schools are doing that? Where they're serving as a barrier against the widespreading corruption, the world of Adventism, and to provide for the mental and spiritual welfare of the people of this movement, and after the people have come out of these facilities, that the movement is being furnished with people, it says men, today we have men and women, who are qualified to act in the fear of God as leaders and counselors. You think we're fulfilling that?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You see results of people who come out of these schools, or you've heard of them, I don't know how much interaction you've had with people, that this, you'd say, yeah, this is happening.
I think there's plenty of transparency about it all to prove that. And there's sufficient quantity of people getting together and discussing things to allow that to happen.
Sister Sue Ellen, do you have any thoughts about being a student at one of these schools?
Well, I like that word transparency. That's something that I appreciate about the teachers in the school and the fellowship that we go to.
I can't hear it so well, sorry.
Did you hear about the transparency?
I got it so far, just the volume's going down.
Okay.
about the school and the fellowship that you go to.
And the transparency and about, you know, what we're about here and what's being taught. And I want to say that the reason I came was because I became a Seventh-day Adventist and started reading Ellen White, and little by little, you know, came to believe that she was a prophet and that everything that she talks about points to the Bible and the Word of God. And then in reading her experience and the experience of Millerites and learning about how they studied the Bible to find out about the prophecies and stuff, I wanted to learn how to read the Bible that way, to get some information, to find out what God was trying to say to us and to me. And then when I found a thing on the YouTube, a presentation about that, I prayed about, you know, wanting to learn how to, well, when I pray, sometimes it's a formal prayer and sometimes it's just, I wish I could learn how to do that. And then I had the experience of seeing a presentation about it, and even though I didn't understand it at the time, I could tell that it was a way to study the Bible in an organized way, to sort of understand it. And so little by little, I watched many more presentations and found out about the School of the Prophets, and then wanted to be here to learn. I began to understand more, and I appreciate many things that I've learned, like things that stick with me, like that I have to make it my own. You know, I have to, whatever I learn here, I have to make it my own, but I don't make it my own through my own power. I make it my own through trusting God and praying and asking for guidance. So that the thing I appreciate is that everything points to the Word of God. And, you know, Ellen White points to the Word of God.
I want to ask another question, still on the students. Brother Graham, sorry. Are you a son of a prophet?
I'm not sure of the context, so I'm just going to say yes.
The context is paragraph 46.2. That's dangerous. Brother Daniel.
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
What's the qualification?
I'm son of Jesus. Of God.
Sorry?
I'm the son of God.
You're a son of God?
Yes.
That's your...
Oh, just a second.
He's disappearing.
Video now.
Are we okay? Technical disasters? Okay, I just read the first sentence. The reason I'm asking the question is that the purpose of these schools was to promote the prosperity of the movement. First sentence. And the way it does that, it promotes the prosperity of the nation by furnishing the movement with qualified people who will act in the fear of God as leaders and counselors. To this end, Samuel gathered companies of young men who were pious, intelligent, and studious. These were called the sons of the prophets. So that's the context of that. So you're pious, intelligent, and studious. That was the qualification to even come to the school as a student. If you didn't hit that target, you shouldn't be coming to the school. That one. Sorry?
And you had to be a man.
In that generation, yes. Brother Tyler.
I just wanted to qualify, are the sons of the prophets are the students, or are they the teachers? And I only read that because as you get a little bit further, she switches nouns or something, and it reads different. It seems like it can read either way.
Okay, so to this end, Samuel gathered companies of young men who were pious, intelligent, and studious. Is this the instructors or is this the students? These were called the sons of the prophets. As they studied the word and works of God, his life-giving power quickened the energies of mind and soul, and the students received wisdom from above.
And that the students is the thing that gets me there. And I see how you could read it either way.
Who's the they?
What?
As they studied.
The sons of the prophets.
Are they you're not sure if they're the students?
Well, that's my question.
Yeah, okay, that's
because
so you're not sure.
Students is after.
Yeah.
You know, so she'd have to be referring to something she said before.
Brother Theodore, you're grimacing.
Well, I don't understand how he reads grammar, that's all. I think it's pretty straightforward that the students
Okay. If it's
are
He
the
reads it
sons.
the same way I do. Badly.
So the students are the sons of the prophets. That's how I read it. I don't see how you could read it any other way, but...
I do.
You do?
Yeah. I'm not saying the other way was right, but I can see how you read it the other way. 'Cause
Okay.
we're not very good at all this stuff. At least I'm not. So I want to go with the sons of the prophets. They study the word of God, and they're the students. So it's got all that. They're all qualified to take these leading positions in the movement. But they have to be pious, intelligent, and studious. Is that the requirements that we have for our schools, or we just sort of take anybody? So how's that working? Brother Daniel?
I don't know, you have to, when you go to the school of the prophets, you have to assign a lot of documents, and you have to have some recommendations. So I think we are fulfilling this. You have to have a recommendation of someone else, actually 3 people I think. So I think we are fulfilling this.
Sister Rachel, you?
I didn't go through that.
For that? You didn't do it? But infiltrator. Sneaked in.
I did when I came here.
You did?
But I don't know how you're gonna qualify someone as intelligent, as, you know, how do we level this? How are we gonna measure someone? Oh, you are intelligent, you can come. Oh no, you are not that good. How are we gonna do that? I don't understand.
I don't understand. I'm just reading what she says.
So this is common sense. People look to you saying, yeah, you can come.
That's only one. It's pious and studious.
So
it seems to me this is
gather them. So that's the first. We could say that's the kind of the first, calling that Samuel, the prophet, he's a prophet. He's doing this. So I think he's qualified to select.
Is this school meant to be a correction facility? I don't know if that's the term that you use here. People know what that means. To take wayward people, mostly young, off. They're the most wayward, I guess. When you get a bit older, you hide your waywardness. To sort of straighten them out. It didn't seem to be that. Brother Tyler and Brother Philip.
As I read, and maybe this is controversial to say, but I don't think the schools of the prophets that we have today are not the schools of the prophets that Samuel and Sister White are talking about. And one reason I would say that is because, and I don't mean that to say what we're doing is bad, I mean, I think we're meeting different ends. We're going 2 different directions. In terms of the people that are being furnished here are leaders and counselors. Teachers only. It's like when you leave this school, you're a teacher, and now you're going to go fulfill the role of a teacher doing some teacherly thing. And to get in, you got to be converted, and the teachers got to be converted. And we don't do that today. We're more of a we're more of a
sort of like unconverted group teaching another unconverted group.
a general education, a general education kind of school. In terms of,
you like your GED,
like, sure.
More than your high school.
But I don't think it's wrong what we're doing. I just think it's not this. It's not this. It's not this model.
Brother Philip?
Regarding your question on whether our schools are correction facilities or should be here, she says that, and I read it as being students, Samuel gathered companies of young men who were pious, intelligent, and studious. So maybe these men, they were untrained men, but still they were as like empty vessels ready to be filled in, really they had the potential of becoming great teachers, and not only the potential, they had the willingness to attain to that potential. And the school was the means through which that potential could be attained.
Timothy? He didn't go to school, but I'm just thinking when you say empty vessel, but he's a vessel and his mother and grandmother have done this great work upon him, so he receives maybe the finishing touches or this filling.
Yeah. I agree. I think that this is not the place where people should come where they don't have the disposition to, attain that.
You agree with that, Sister Alyssa? It's not a place that we should come to if you don't have the disposition
To study.
to be a student, to fulfill this role. Whatever the bit is, the disposition. I think we all know what the disposition is. The bent. You shouldn't be coming if you haven't got the bent in that direction. Agree with that?
I do.
Brother Larry, you agree with that?
Yeah, I believe.
So if you had a facility like that, you wouldn't need to do 7 times? Because the people who are coming would have the bent, they would never need to be treated like that.
Ideally. Yeah. Where everybody knows how to behave and what to do. Yeah, I agree. But that's not the case, because we obviously have the 7 times.
So if that's not the case, you should inflict corporal punishment upon people.
Is that what you call it?
I don't know what is corporal punishment.
Corporal punishment.
It's like beating.
I don't know. What do you want to call it?
Maybe harsher, not harsh, but it's a
Harsher
more
physical. I'll go with corporal.
Physical
Agree
labor.
with me?
Physical labor is different than beating a person.
No, physical labour, I think Brother Philip told us, was to educate the mind, and you can do a bit of the body as well. 7 times is not educating your mind, it's causing physical pain, teach you a lesson. It's corporal punishment.
It works on the mind too.
Yeah, but if I beat you with a stick, corporal punishment, it would straighten your mind out. But is that what a school of the prophet should be training you? Is that the mechanism of training?
No,
And why you do it for?
we don't beat people.
Okay. Brother James.
Well, I was just going to say, what was the school of the prophets established for originally? It was to bring reform. And why was it reestablished? It was to bring reform. And I think that the same reason is why this is established, to bring about a reform.
So at that level, we're fulfilling that role to try and bring about reform. So I hope people haven't found this too painful. An open criticism of what we do. I think Brother Gregory said it nicely for me. Transparency. We can have a frank conversation. We've got schools coming up. We've got schools just starting. And it's easy to lose our direction unless we have some kind of direction in which we're going, and we're not doing what Brother Theodore said. He doesn't know, he's got no idea how it's all being put together. People are just doing their own little thing over there without any kind of direction or discussion, which probably doesn't sound good. It seems to me, summarising what people have said, that we call these schools of the prophets, but they're not really based upon the model that's being presented here. The schools that were discussed here were to train teachers to promote the prosperity of the nation, the movement. It doesn't give you any indication here about time, about how long those schools ran for, or the training program for a school. But I suspect it wasn't as short as we have, like 3 months. So even though we call these schools of the prophets, and it can lead you into this idea that they're based upon this original model, it's not really based upon that in many, many different ways. The people that are selected to come, it isn't done in that same way. The length isn't the same way. There are many things that are not the same as this kind of training. Just want to make that point. Even the things that they teach you at the school is different. We haven't read that because I didn't go through the rest of the passage. Sorry?
Covered it. They studied the Bible and the works of God.
Yes.
Studied nature and the Bible.
Yeah, there are other things that they learn. I think it's 5 things that they learn. We only picked on some of them. So I just wanted us to think about where our schools are headed. If we're running along this model, if we should be running along this model, maybe we even shouldn't. Maybe what we're doing is the right way to do it because we're at the end of the world, things are different. The purpose of these schools is different. But maybe we're doing everything correct because every single one of us is a priest. If we can go with that. And these priests are who? They're the born leaders stroke teachers of the nation, aren't they? And it's really easy for us to just be too introspective of ourselves and see how bad we are. And I don't think we sometimes appreciate the great work that we've got to do in the nation that's just about to come. So maybe what we're doing is right. Maybe we are all intelligent, studious and pious. Maybe when we talk about this is a correction facility, maybe that perspective that we have isn't right. Maybe as Brother Daniel said, for sure he's the son of a prophet. Not because he's the son of God, but because he does fulfill all these requirements, as every single one of us do, because little do we realize the high calling that God has given us. And it's really easy just to think we're just like nobodies, but maybe we're not nobodies. And I think I rubbed it out on the board. So, it's really easy just to think everything's just a mess. It's just all disorganized and we're not following things right. I'm not arguing that we couldn't improve things, but the perspective of priests stroke prophets, people are being trained for this great work to come. Maybe we are actually following this model. We all know it's dangerous to understand the whole system of education just from one paragraph. It's only a skewed vision or perspective of what's being discussed because she wants to make a specific point. So I did see some hands up, but we'll stop. The reason we were here wasn't for any of that really. It was paragraph 46.1 because what I wanted us to see was the following, and I'll read the paragraph again. second sentence. From the earliest times, prophets had been recognized as teachers divinely appointed. In the highest sense, the prophet was one who spoke by direct inspiration, communicating to the people the messages he had received from God. But the name was given also to those who, though not so directly inspired, were divinely called to instruct the people in the works and ways of God. And then the paragraph that we just read, oh no, I'll read that last sentence. For the training of such a class of teachers, of prophets, Samuel established the schools of the prophets. So you've got these two types of prophets, ones that are trained into the job and ones that are directly or divinely inspired. And you don't need any education for that. Anybody can fulfill that role. But what we're talking about are people who need to be trained to do this role. And they're trained to be prophets. It doesn't talk about priests here. But if we overlay the concept of priests, then maybe everything that we're doing in our schools is correct, is exactly the fulfillment of what these of what the school that we just discussed now really should look like. And it's not this dark, ugly picture that perhaps it seemed that was being portrayed. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we want to give you praise and thanks for your goodness and mercy. We ask, Lord, for the blessing of the Holy Spirit as we prepare our hearts, our minds, everything around us, and even this facility for your holy Sabbath day. As we walk through this day, be with us and guide us. And Lord, as we've discussed the subject of the schools of the prophets, which is the aim and the title of this ministry, help us to see as instructors and students whether or not we individually and corporately are fulfilling this role, the role that you would give us. We ask and pray for this blessing in Jesus' holy name, and also a blessing upon the food that you've provided for our needs. Amen.